Alright, 7th graders, welcome to subtracting integers. Why did the fraction go get a massage? I don't know, maybe because it was 2/10? Get it? Alright, hopefully you're not feeling tense right now. Take a deep breath, stretch out a little bit, and simplify so that you're ready to tackle this. You're going to do great. Okay, so we are going to tackle subtracting integers, and just like last time, we're going to start out with some models, and then that's going to help us to understand what's happening with the rule. So go ahead and grab two colors. It's helpful to have red and yellow because that's what I'm going to use, and model along with me. First problem, 5 minus 3. Jumping right in. I'm going to model this by starting with 5 positives. And as you probably learned a long time ago, when I'm taking away, when I'm subtracting, I can think about that as taking away. It also means find the difference, but here we're thinking about it as removing or taking away. So if I want to get rid of 3 positives, take away 3, and I'm left with 2. We're going to return to this in a second, or in a few minutes, but right now let's move on to number 2. Negative 5 minus negative 2. And this problem's getting a little more interesting, but I'm going to tackle it in the same way. I'm going to start by modeling the negative 5. I've got 5 negatives. And what this is asking me to do is to subtract negative 2 or take away 2 negatives. And I've got them right here. Take away 2 negatives. What I'm left with is 3 negatives. I had 5 red chips, I took away 2 of them, and I've got 3 of them left. Alright, let's move on to number 3. Alright, it's getting a little more interesting here, but let's tackle it in the same way. Negative 8 minus 1. I'm going to start with 8 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and I'm going to cross something out, but now I have an issue because I want to take away 1, positive 1. This is a negative. It doesn't say minus negative 1. That would look like this. It doesn't say that. We need to take away a positive. Since I don't have any positives here, the only way I can get a positive in my workspace is if I add a 0 pair. That's because if I add a negative and I add another positive, these two are going to cancel out. I've got the same 8 negatives, but this stuff is just 0. So this is still negative 8. I've done some magic, a little craftiness here so that I have a positive to take away. Now, when I take away that positive, I'm left with 9 total. So the solution is 9. Okay, let's do one more. 3 minus negative 2. Let's do the exact same approach. Start with 3 positives. 1, 2, 3. And I want to take away 2 negatives. Since I don't have any negatives, the only way that I can get some more on the board is to add some 0 pairs. So that means I'm going to add a positive and a negative. That's 0. And a positive and another negative. That's 0. This is still 3 because there's 3 positives. These guys cancel out, so it's still equal to 3. But I can take away 2 negatives. 1, 2, and what I'm left with is positive 5. And I just realized that I didn't make this negative 9 here. So glad I caught that mistake because 9 is a very different number from negative 9. I'd rather have $9 than negative $9 personally. Okay, now I want us to look back at these 4 answers and notice a couple things. First, When we take away a positive number, we subtract a positive, the result, the difference, is something smaller than what we started with. 5 minus 3 is 2. That's smaller. And negative 8 minus 1 is negative 9. That's a smaller number. At the same time, when we subtract a negative number, the opposite happens. We get a larger number. Negative 5 minus negative 2, that was negative 3, which is larger than negative 5. Again, I would rather have negative $3.03 than negative 5, personally. Same thing with number 4. 3, we took away a negative number and it got larger. That's interesting. Now I want you to do something. I want you to go back to all 4 of these problems and fill in the blanks here. For number 1, I want you to tell me 5 plus what number is equal to 2? Number 2, negative 5 plus what number is equal to negative 3? Negative 8 plus what is going to give us negative 9? And 3 plus what number is going to give us 5? How could you do these problems, but instead of subtraction, using addition? Pause the video and figure it out. Okay, so 5 plus negative 3 would give us 2. Negative 5 plus positive 2 would give us negative 3. Negative 8 plus negative 1 gives us negative 9. And 3, obviously, plus 2 is what we use to get 5. The relationship between the numbers we added and the numbers we are subtracting might be clear now. When we subtracted 3, we could add negative 3. When we subtracted negative 2, we could add 2. If you're thinking opposites, you are 100% correct. That's because the rule for subtraction is that when we're subtracting, we're actually doing addition. All we're doing is adding the opposite. Then we can follow the regular rules of addition. Let me show you what that looks like. Let's look down at the examples. So negative 8 minus negative 2. First, we need to think, I need to change this into adding the opposite. I'm going to keep the first number, negative 8. That doesn't change. I need to change the operation from subtraction to addition. Then I need to change negative 2 into a positive. I've just changed this into adding the opposite. Now I can use the regular rules of addition. These are two numbers. They have different signs. So that means I'm going to subtract. Negative 8 plus 2 is going to be 6, and then the sign is going to be negative because negative 8 has a larger absolute value. Let's do another one. Keep, change, and change. 4, change subtraction to addition, change the negative 2 to a positive. They have the same sign, so we're going to add, which means the sum is 6. I'm going to circle these answers so they're a little more clear. Let's do one more. We're going to keep, then change and change. We're going to keep the 4. We're going to change subtraction to addition and change 8 to the opposite, negative 8. I'm going to put parentheses around it so it's a little more clear. 4 plus negative 8, they have different signs, which means we are going to find the difference. We're going to subtract. 4 plus negative 8 is 4, and then 8 has a larger absolute value, so it's negative. Okay, so flip to the next page and let's check your understanding. Try these problems 1 through 4 on your own. Pause the video, enter your answers, and then once you finish, check them along with me. If you totally have them, you can definitely move on to practice, which is below. It's a mixture of adding and subtracting. And then check your work at the control station when you're ready. Okay, so pause the video and get numbers 1 through 4 done. Okay, starting with number 1. I'm going to use the rule. So I'm going to keep, change, and change because subtraction is adding the opposite. Keep the -7, change subtraction into addition, and change -5 to a positive. Now I use the addition rules. These have different signs, so I'm going to use subtraction. Different signs, I find the difference. -7 plus 5 is going to be, subtract those two, I get 2, and 7 has a larger absolute value, so it's -2. Okay, number 2, I'm going to keep, change, change, because subtraction's adding the opposite. Keep the first number, 2, change subtraction to adding, and change the second number to the opposite, -8. Okay, these have different signs, which means we're going to use subtraction. And 2 plus -8, subtract those, and I get 6. And 8 has a larger absolute value, so it's -6. Let's keep going. Number 3. I'm going to keep, change, change, because subtraction is adding the opposite. So I keep the first number. I change subtraction to addition, and then I change the 66 to the opposite sign, which is -66. These have the same sign, so that means we're going to find the sum. We're going to add. 40 plus 66 is 104, and they have the same sign, so that means I'm going to keep the sign. It's -104. One more. -90 minus -80 minus 20. Man, I'm feeling 2/10 about that. Ooh, see what I did there? No worries. Let's change this subtraction into adding the opposite. We're going to do it one step at a time. So first let's do -90 minus -80. -90, change addition, subtraction to addition, and change the -80 to the opposite, which is 80. Then I'm going to write this so I can deal with it later. These two have different signs, so I'm going to subtract. 90 minus 80, that's 10. And a 90 has a larger absolute value, so that means it's going to have a negative sign. I'm not done yet. I need to bring this down, the 20. My problem's a lot simpler now, though. I'm going to keep, change, change, because subtraction is just adding the opposite. So I've got -10 plus -20. These have the same sign, so that means that we are going to add. 10 plus 20 is 30, and they have a negative, so the solution is -30. Okay, hopefully that was helpful, and you're now ready to go on to practice. Make sure that you're changing subtraction into adding the opposite when you have a subtraction problem, and when you don't, when you have an addition problem, just use the addition rules as normal.